Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the Taliban isn't allowing flights with Americans on board to leave Afghanistan, and the former Afghan president issuing a public apology for leaving the country. The House sets its debate on the $3.5 trillion domestic investment plan, but moderate Senator Joe Manchin only supports a fraction of that, which could hamper President Biden's Build Back Better agenda. This comes as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejects Manchin's call to hit pause on reconciliation. And Biden is set to announce a six-pronged approach to combating COVID-19. That includes new announcements and mandates and testing. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Let's begin with the Americans still in Afghanistan. Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying Wednesday that flights aren't allowed to leave Afghanistan.
As of now, the Taliban are not permitting the charter flights to depart. They claim that some of the passengers do not have the required documentation.
Some are already calling it a verification of a hostage situation. Blinken's comments came during a joint press conference in Germany alongside the German foreign minister. Blinken went on to say the U.S. will push the Taliban to allow them to depart.
The bottom line is this: those flights need to be able to depart. And we will work every day to make sure that they're able to do that. We will continue to press the Taliban to allow the charters to leave, and also, critically, to open HKIA, the Hamid Karzai International Airport, to the regular flow of civilian aircraft, which can enable the safe and orderly departure of people from Afghanistan. Our efforts to help people who want to leave Afghanistan will continue.
Now, as to the situation in Afghanistan, the former Afghan president is speaking out. Former Afghan President Ashraf Ghani posted an apology on Twitter. That's over his leaving the country as the Taliban closed in on Kabul last month. He posted a statement in English saying he left at the urging of the palace security. Ghani also denies what he calls baseless allegations that he took millions of dollars belonging to Afghans out of the country. He ended the statement by saying, "I apologize to the Afghan people that I could not make it end differently." Now, who is currently in leadership positions in the country? The Taliban has been busy filling posts in its new interim government in Afghanistan. 4 of the appointees were formerly detained in Guantanamo Bay. President Obama released them in 2014 in exchange for former U.S. Army Surgeon Bowe Bergdahl. The men were mostly mid to high-level officials in the Taliban regime and had been detained early in the war in Afghanistan. The U.S. released them as part of a prisoner swap for U.S. Army Surgeon Bowe Bergdahl. Bergdahl was captured by the Taliban in Afghanistan in 2009 and held captive for nearly 5 years. According to the Taliban, those 4 men were given senior positions in the Taliban's caretaker or temporary government. A 5th detainee, also released in the 2014 trade, was appointed last month as the new governor of a southeastern Afghanistan province. Now, there's been several reports on the cost of the war on terror, but now the government believes more people may have died of illnesses related to the 9/11 attacks than those killed in the terror attacks. The Justice Department revealed the data in a special report on the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund on Tuesday. The fund was set up for survivors and victims' families in the wake of the 2001 attacks. According to the DOJ report, more than 18,000 people who filed a claim listed 9/11-related cancers as one of their eligible conditions. That's 48% of the claims filed. More than 40,000 people have received nearly $9 billion from the federal fund. Nearly 3,000 people were killed on September 11, 2001, when terrorists crashed airplanes into the World Trade Center in New York City, the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and a field outside of Shanksville, Pennsylvania. As the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks approaches, a new study details the health problems first responders are still dealing with. Researchers say the rescue crews among the first to appear on scene are more than 30% more likely than those who appeared later to have medical problems like lung inflammation, among others. The findings were based on 18,000 responders who took at least 2 tests that measure lung health. The research, which was presented at the European Respiratory Society International Congress, compared the timing of each responder's arrival at the World Trade Center. A professor involved with the study says because some health problems develop over years, it's important to keep a close eye on the first responders. Now, let's take a moment to turn to infrastructure and the question on whether or not taxes are going up. The House sets its debate on the $3.5 trillion domestic investment plan, but moderate Senator Joe Manchin only supports a fraction of that, which could hamper President Biden's Build Back Better plan. The Democrats' massive spending plan would expand health care benefits for seniors and would provide other social services. And now the House Ways and Means Committee is planning to debate the bill on Thursday and Friday. All Republicans are expected to oppose it, with key moderate Senator Joe Manchin taking issue with its price tag. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi doesn't agree with Manchin's strategic pause on passing the bill through budget reconciliation. And she said women members are contributing to its passage.
And so our women members are not that the men aren't energized, but the women see this as really transformative for women in the workplace, child care, universal pre-K, family medical leave, child tax credit. So spectacular.
Though Republicans have criticized the measure, they argue it would waste money, fuel inflation, implement far-left doctrines like mass amnesty, and raise taxes, hampering the economy. And former President Trump called the Democrats' budget proposal a communist plan to destroy America. Earlier, Senator Manchin wrote that he won't support such massive additional spendings without Congress addressing how inflation and debt affect existing government programs. This as Democrats prepare for a legal battle later this month on raising the debt ceiling. Only Congress can raise the debt ceiling, and if they fail to raise the borrowing limit, the U.S. government would face default, which could be catastrophic, according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Manchin said he would only support $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion of Biden's $3.5 trillion spending package. But Biden is hopeful they can work something out.
Joe at the end has always been there. He's always been with me. I think we can work something out, and I look forward to speaking with him.
The chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, Bernie Sanders, was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa this weekend, rallying support for the legislation. There in an interview, he told the New York Times about the measure, saying you can't slow it down. He's calling on Democrats to act quickly to pass it. But with a 50-50 split in the Senate, it is likely that this part of Biden's Build Back Better agenda and many progressive priorities could die out in this Congress. And staying in the nation's capital, new federal COVID mandates are on the way. President Biden is set to announce a six-pronged approach to combating COVID-19 on Thursday, including new announcements on mandates and testing. A person familiar with the matter says the mandates will focus on schools and private sector workplaces. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters the plan will span the, quote, public and private sectors to help continue to get the pandemic under control. She did not elaborate on the details. Officials say they hope the new approach will provide Americans a clearer view on how the pandemic may end. While Biden has encouraged businesses to require vaccines for workers, officials said there is more the private sector can do to encourage people to get the shot. That includes requiring proof of vaccination at restaurants, bars, and other venues. Administration officials have been working over the past few weeks to determine ways the government could make it easier for businesses to apply those requirements. And now before we end, it's International Literacy Day. Communities and organizations worldwide are celebrating the day by focusing on the value and importance of reading. Despite the role literacy plays in society, roughly 775 million people around the world are unable to read. Roughly two-thirds of those who can't read are women. People who participate in International Literacy Day can volunteer at a library and read books to children. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.